What's up, everybody? Welcome back here at Big O Belt Media for another recap from Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 3, where we don't know the name of the title of this episode once again. It's just kind of how these things go. And, it's interesting because I think that they're fully protected of it. I'm not sure if there's a means behind why, because no matter where you look, no matter if you're getting episodes early or you're looking on like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, like they're not waiting. Even if you're looking on the app, they're waiting to the last minute to drop the name of the episode. So typically I like to drop the name of the episode when we get started, but nobody knows what it is. So maybe we just have to just start naming it ourselves. But last week's was Rhaenyra the Cruel, which I love that name. So I would have been nowhere near as cool as naming it then. But
speaking of names, did you notice that the first one was called The Son of a Son, right? And they released it on Father's Day.
Oh, they well, their marketing has always been top tier, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was a means to a strategy here.
Yeah, I just thought that was so funny when I found that out.
But if I had to name this episode, I don't know what I would name it, but there's a lot of different things we're definitely going to talk about today. But let's just start off quickly by discussing our thoughts about this episode. And I'll start with you. Overall, what did you think about episode 3?
I thought it was good. I definitely think it was a lot slower. Maybe to me personally, I feel like it was a lot slower than last episode. I thought last episode there was a lot going on. It was the longer of the episodes, but this one I thought it was a lot slower. But I liked it. It's a nice break. It's not it doesn't always have to be action all the time, which a lot of I feel like a lot of people were theorizing when they saw the trailers for this episode coming up that there could have been a lot more action because they throw in a lot Balon the dragon and stuff like that. So they're talking about battles. So I'm glad that this is a little bit more slower with that.
Yeah, the war is inevitable, and even since the conclusion of last season, we know war was coming, and I think there obviously is a lot of establishing that, and this episode was definitely like a means to resolution before the war even kicks off, and I think it does give a lot of perspective because I would say for myself, you think whoever has the dragons has control, and the fact that we're getting to start to understand a little bit more of the characteristics of these dragons, and we'll talk about it, but it's been said more times than enough that once the dragons start to eat, breathe, sleep, and smell war, that's all they're gonna know, and that will be the demise of all of humanity, not just one house or the other. So we have to be very strategical about when we do this, because once we introduce that to them, it's a wrap for everybody. Fire will burn and everything will be turned to ashes. So I thought that was interesting, because I'm thinking I got to be honest, I'm right there in Rhaenyra's council. We need to get ahead. We need to, while we have a chance, we know where Kristen Cole is at right now. Let's go get it. And we see that okay, maybe that isn't the smart thing just yet. So
yeah, because it's destruction. I think that's why I also like that this is a little bit more slower, because it kind of shows that they're trying to deal with this a different way, to more of a peaceful way before any of that happens, because that's it. It's done. I mean, we saw the end of season 8 with the dragons and King's Landing. It's bad.
Yep. All right, so starting off in the beginning, we and this was at a point it seems to not have been. At one point for me, I thought oh, okay, whatever they're showing is just kind of setting us the tone for what war looks like and the results of it, and obviously just kind of looking at things on the street level, because if you looked at this politics, you're well, House of Red and House of Green, that's Democrats versus the Republicans. And what we're seeing right now in this opening shot was just the people in the street saying, well, whose side you on? What gang sect you repping? And we're seeing chaos just at that level. But it means a little bit more. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But we do see House Bracken versus the Blackwoods, and Samuel Blackwood is just talking that crap. He just like, listen, like, like, and only to discover that like this was a pre-existing beef, shall we say, for many
Yes.
generations, and they were just looking for means to pop off.
Mm-hmm.
But that little bullying by Samuel didn't last long, because we slowly we quickly saw a shot with an arrow in his neck, or a staff in his neck, and it just let you know, one, that there is the value of troops, because everybody needs to strengthen their armies, but also at the same time that chaos and war is at all levels, and everybody's just looking for means to pop off. And so why, and that's why, like, moving has to be strategical, and you can't just send out a bird call and think it won't have like a cause and effect here. So even folks, no matter what side of loyalty that they're reigning on, everybody's finding means to insert themselves in whatever way and whatever level. So for you, just seeing this House Bracken and the Blackwoods and their little moment of who's team Rhaenyra and who's team Aegon, like what was your thoughts about that, to quickly seeing so many bodies on the ground?
Well, I like seeing it back again, because I don't know if a lot of people remember, but they were also in season 1.
Yeah.
At the beginning, they were younger. That's when she was like in her tour to Stormlands, and then he was the I think it was Lord Blackwood was the little skinny one that was getting bullied by the Brackens and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool to see. And then they also fight there, so it's like you kind of see their start of their ongoing conflict. But I do like seeing that, because I feel like especially these last 2 episodes, it's focused so heavy on the High Towers and the Targaryens and Team Green and Team Black. But I like seeing them because it shows like how it affects everybody else, like which team that they're on and things like that. And I like seeing that because you don't really get to see a lot of the other lands besides Winterfell. That's the only one, which we all know is Team Red, Team Black.
Yeah.
So I like it. I thought it was good. And I think that the Blackwoods that leads up to something else later with the Targaryens. So good to see.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We see the brothers Eric and Eric now buried next to each other, and they're discussing the oath that they had, and Rhaenyra, seems to be at peace with it, but there's a lot of indication, and I want to say that Rhaenyra has really been sort of just that brain piece to everything that Rhaenyra has kind of been thinking. This is on the lines of what Otto is to you. Well, you would have hoped Otto was to Aegon and ultimately his daughter and Allison. But like, I think everybody has a measure of perspective, and I think there are a few very wise folks that really understands what's happening. And she was the first one to say that Otto would have never allowed this.
Yeah.
So whether you think this was an attack on you that was done to the highest degree, or this was some stealth mission by a selected few to kind of make this happen. And I think it's, as she said later on in the episode, because she dropped nothing but knowledge this entire episode. But she said in the episode, in the same sense that you blame it, almost is the same sense as you having to take credit for the beheading of the child. Now, did you do that? So you have to kind of have the same perspective. Do you think they did this? And he said, like, and everybody kind of knows Otto's trait. Obviously, he's been the right hand for years. Many kings, just in case people need to put respect on his names. So I understand that like this did not smell like an action by him. He would have never allowed this. What did you think about just her sort of position and stance on everything throughout this entire episode? I think we should just cover it all now.
I think she was absolutely right. Is she the hand of her? I don't remember, because she's definitely acting like Rhaenyra's hand of the queen. If she's not, she certainly acts like it, which is really good. I totally agree with everything she says, and I think that she is a good, like, in a room full of men and men who are just like, we need dragons, we need to do this, we need to act. Like, I like that Rhaenys is like that voice to her. like to kind of like put her back into her place and not try to get caught up with everyone telling her like, let's take the most violent route of it. So I think that was really good, and she needs to listen to her because she's smart.
Yeah, and I was listening too, because I mean, this was the first time where she talked about like, the moment that
Mhm.
we like, and I think this is a lot. I think this is the truth with like a lot of people in so many different situations, is that some people always think about how to retaliate and not thinking about the cause and effect. And then you get to ultimately only thinking about the result, that you forget how things even started. So she brought up like, if it ain't from the killing or the burning and the one vent after the next, you forgot why we even got here. And she recounted everything back. She was like, well, was it because the baby's head being sewn off? Or was it
Mhm.
because your son was killed? Or was it because your son took
Eamon's eye.
Aemon's eye? You
Yeah.
have to remember, like, these days go back. And I think that, like, in a very subtle way, I think that was the gem that really was significant in terms of her reasoning throughout the entire episode, especially with the council. And I
Yeah.
also think too that you talk about her hand, but with Daemon not being there is also like very lucky circumstances, because I think he would have sort of pushed that same narrative of let's ride.
Yeah. No, he's always for that. He's always the man of action. Like
Uh-huh. But he's in Harrenhal, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit now.
Mhm.
The next thing we got is oh, I forgot to mention. So she also thought about the plan of saying like there may be another way, and it may go through Alicent Hightower.
Yeah.
Listen, the two best friends are in denial. I ain't gonna say they are not in denial, because I think Rhaenyra has sort of opened up in a way I was not expecting. It's really interesting. I am curious about what do you think about. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but what are you thinking about like the two of them, Alicent and Rhaenyra's like means for peace?
We're talking about later, right?
Just overall, because like
Overall.
I think in
Mhm.
the beginning here, just to kind of set you in a path, when I'm thinking, when the idea of talking to Alicent was first introduced, she was just like, well, she sent me something from the Raven, but I'm not really trying to hear that. But now that her perspective is kind of open, and she's like, all right, maybe we should consider this. And so because
Mhm.
of her open heart to it, she goes on this crazy mission into King's Landing to meet with her secretly. But while I think as the viewers, we're thinking like, they're best friends. There might be resolve here.
Yeah.
Alicent wasn't
Mhm.
given.
Yeah, no. No, not at all. I
so one other thing I want to introduce
yeah.
to this is that, do you think that even in the forgiveness that she's given from what's her name, Helena, because that you nailed that absolutely was sitting on her heart heavy, and
Mhm.
it wasn't something that she came right up to the forefront to discuss, but Helena had peeped it miles away and was like, I forgive you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that, and I'm like, "Yes, I did call it," and,
but
I do think that she noticed, We don't know, like, how much she knows, because also
mhm.
Helena is also a dreamer, so it's like she has, like, visions and things like that, and she doesn't know, like, what they fully mean and things like that. This is this is also seen in the previous episodes too, because, like, when she said, "I forgive you," I'm like, "Okay, that could mean totally different things." That could be, she probably knows about her and Christian Cole, like, wouldn't surprise me.
Still not addressed.
Still not addressed, but she probably knows, and then
Yeah.
probably that she feels guilty, about the death of the son and things like that because, like, if he was there, he would have been saved probably. And we also don't know. It could be something that's gonna happen in the future. Because I feel like they hint a lot of things with
but
Helena.
But what about the motherhood aspect, which was
Mhm.
something very heavy for Allison when she tried to relate with her, saying, I understand, being a mother, and and like, you have all the means to grieve, it's
Yeah.
okay for you to grieve. And she's like, trying to create this space for her. And then Helena's like, I'm already off this. At least that's how I'm giving it. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think she was ever really. The Dreamer note is definitely on point too. But I think as much as this life has sort of opened up things for her in terms of like a statue and just position and what her role is going to be, I think she's like one of the ones like, I never wanted any of this for me.
Yeah.
So me losing a child meant nothing. I'm like, I want to be out of the spotlight, off the grid on this. And that the fact you keep confronting it with me is bringing more attention than I'm even willing to give here. And then so it's like, well, I felt like her saying, I forgive you was kind of like, please get out of my face. I'm over it. So I don't know if it truly does give sort of the relief that Alicent's looking for, but it definitely was something that was weighing heavy on her heart. So to going back to Rhaenyra and Alicent, to that point, she brought up the big thing about the motherhood and understanding the loss. Why wouldn't she have that same measure of empathy for Rhaenyra? And that Rhaenyra's position really came from that. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. So that's what I want to know, your whole thoughts about all of that.
Okay. Well, just to like kind of like circle back in regards to Rhaenyra and Alicent, I feel like that I really enjoy that Rhaenys, that's her name, right? Rhaenys is trying to go about this a different way. You know, they're trying to go through Alicent to kind of stop this, you know, and I do like that a lot. And, you know, and I feel like that when she was talking about like all the stuff that happened to kind of like lead up to it, like Aemon's eye, you know, the murders of Jaehaerys, the murder of, you know, the son Jace, like I feel like she's kind of like kind of like putting in her eyes like this is all like family shit. Like this is all family stuff. Like, you know, try to make peace with them, and then maybe we can move on for this. And I think that's what it is, basically. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but yeah, you know, I think that's what it is. And that will tie in later too when we talk about it later. To when they meet up later. Yes.
Okay, let's move on here. Where do we go next? I think we go to I think we got to go House Green here.
Oh yeah,
and take a look into the council inside the chambers here, and we see Criston Cole now, the Lord's Hand, late,
late as always.
Also is aware that there's some new knights appointed. And everybody's focus there is about war and how to get the head start. This again, they bring up the Blackwoods War, and Aegon is so immature and yet so underqualified because he just like, oh well, you know the fact that like Samuel Blackwood is dead, that's a win for us. And everybody's like, that don't really mean anything for us right now. But he's like, he basically tried to assume that was their way of saying this is our first strike. And everybody's like, bro, like, you know,
I think it was not Blackwood, it was the other ones. It was the Brackens.
Bracken, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they were the yellow ones.
Yeah. But I mean, but it's essentially though, the fact that you know, there was blood shed and he looks at it as a means of being able to claim that they did something, you know. He's like, well, cool. I feel like first strike back. But anyway, everybody's throwing around a lot of plans here. It's a lot of detail here, but just to really talk about what actually happens is Criston Cole is putting together a plan, and his plan is pro-war. Yeah. And he's like, this is what I think we should do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what's important is sort of reading the room here, because Alicent is trying to. This is why Alicent just has beef with Rhaenyra at this rate. Because she's sitting here trying to prevent war. And everybody's like, no, let's roll out right now. And while Criston Cole's whole stance is like a stealth way to not draw attention, Aegon's like, cool, I get on my dragon, let's go. Before that, he's also like, well, take Aemon. And this dragon's like, nah, it needs to stay here and protect King's Landing.
Mhm.
He's like, cool, well, I'll go. And he's like, although that's a noble like gesture there, you also stay because we're trying to keep this low key. I'm curious, what do you think about everyone's position in here? And I just want to say that this is just another strike on the board of Aegon trying to prove himself. He has like
Yeah,
little man complex at this
he
rate.
does. He really, really does. And you see that later with Laris too. When we'll talk about that part. But I really feel like that he's trying to make his one, he still, has that revenge part. Like he wants revenge for the son. I feel like that he still wants that. But then
Do you really feel like that's his total motive right now?
not total, but I feel
Oh,
like
okay.
it's one of them. I feel like he's still on that high, because it's not too far off from the time. So he's still on that high. And then also, I feel like that he does have like a little like he's trying to make his name as a king,
Yeah.
basically. And I feel like that he's still young and he's doesn't want I feel like he doesn't like people telling him what to do, basically. And I feel like that's what's happening here. But he's trying to do his own thing. And he likes power. He likes power. He wants to feel respected. And I feel like that's what also another thing we see later with the new knights that come in, which are his friends. So we'll see that later.
Are they? Are they?
Are they? Supposedly.
I tell you, since you bring it up, I mean, we've seen this though. Like
Yeah.
the person who tries to appease the populars, the group
Mhm.
of jocks or whatever you want to call them in high school, and then you see that one person like, yeah, I don't look like I actually are cool,
Mhm.
but sometimes people get inherited into some of these groups because of what they can do for them. So I could think about some of the times you're like, oh, the cool kids are hanging with like whatever you want to call the other person because they have something of use of that person. And
Yeah.
I feel like in a way they're like, okay, we're knights, I guess, because they're not taking it serious. You can
They're
tell
not at all.
everything that Kristen Cole was drawing at the mouth about last episode with the knights. You can see they don't care. They don't care about them, not being on guard. They're tired, slacking off. Now they're out out drinking, like all these sorts of different things that
Mhm.
understand that war is at hand, and you all are just like, I'm happy
Goofing
to be here,
off.
stuff like that, goofing off. And so
Mhm.
him being with them is kind of like it's like his way of acceptance. Like,
Yeah.
oh, if I can show you how I can flex, open bar to everybody, and then you go
Yeah.
to the brothel and say, have what you want, even to the
Yeah.
point that like he clowned his brother in a very, I think, distasteful bullying way,
Yeah.
which is the transference of everything that was happening to him because they were just bullying him essentially or making fun of him. And he went back and said, all right, cool, let me find the next person to do so. It is
Absolutely.
no means, by no means is it by no means do I have any bit of like gratitude towards anything that has happened or will happen to Aegon at this point. It's well served at this rate because
Yeah.
yeah, I will. I'll lay off on for a minute. Well, I got some
Yeah.
more for him later on.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Now, Mysaria and Rhaenyra.
Okay.
This is interesting because now we see them forming an alliance, and we get everything we know about last episode. But Rhaenyra comes in and let know, it's like, I heard you turned around when essentially, I'm paraphrasing everything, but essentially when you caught wind that you did not think that was the right Eric, and you came back and you essentially saved my life. And she's very casual, like, yeah, something seemed off, but and this becomes a measure of now what is the price for a queen these days. And now it's just them working out by her saving her, what can she get, what can she do, what's in it for me, what's in it for you, etc., etc., etc.
It's smart.
What did you think, and ultimately what are you thinking about Mysaria, who I did not read the books, but I was
Mhm.
given a little heads up that this is a significant character. And I don't know if the show is going to, follow the proceedings, but I can just tell you right now that like she comes in as super valuable. I also will say too that like no matter what house side you're on, because I think the show sort of makes it easier for you to lean towards being House of Targaryen over the House of Hightower.
Mhm.
Both houses are stacking these same type of characters on both sides.
They
We
are.
talked
I
about
was
the
just thinking
hands.
about that. Yeah.
Now we got both whisperers on both sides. So it's like,
Mhm.
whoever you want to side with, both teams are stacking up their rosters. But what do you think about, should we say, House Targaryen, Whisper, and Mysaria right now?
I think
Mysaria, whatever it is.
I think it was I like it. I think they're good together. I do like that she respects her too. Cause I think there was something in the show. She was like, well, you could have just left. That was your like main thing that you wanted to do before. And just basically asking, and I'm paraphrasing because I didn't write the script, but she's like, like, why do you want to serve me? And she was like, a lot of you know, people, higher people don't show a lot of mercy, but you did.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like that respect out that they have for each other. And she wants to work for her. And I think having Mysaria on there is really good. I feel like in this world, you need a whisperer. You need a master of whisperers. You need that
Yeah.
little finger, even though he wasn't a master of whisperers then, but same vibe. You need
Yeah.
that, because that's where you learn a lot of stuff.
You gotta, I mean, yeah, you gotta know how to move in silence, and
Mm-hmm.
you need to ear to the streets. You need to know what's going on the street level. I mean, if the war in the beginning of this wasn't a testament to that, I don't know what.
Yeah.
It's not even at the very bottom. I mean, because yeah, she knows how to get around. She knows who's who. She was able to even pick up on something that didn't look right. She's completely
Exactly.
like, I think there is a small measure of feminism between the two of them that they both sort of connect with, because I think that Mysaria just really talked about the sense of almost feeling degraded with the House of Hightower, and why that is
Mm-hmm.
her supreme mission to make them pay. I think
Yeah.
she also still very much has respect for Rhaenyra, and I think she has respect for Rhaenyra not because she's the queen, but because she sees a woman in power, and she's kind of looking at it like, I respect that.
Absolutely.
If the cards wasn't dealt to me the way they were, this was something I would have hope for myself, So
Mm-hmm.
I like this alliance. I like
I
it.
do too. Yeah. I think it's good. I do.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
just don't know how long it's gonna last because I know what
I don't
show I'm
know what
watching.
happens in the book, so you know something that I don't.
I just don't know. But nonetheless, where do we go now? Oh, so she also looked out at sea and says, sea smoke. What's going on with him? He looks, yeah, he
Sad.
says he's growing restless. Maybe he's lonely, was the question there. I don't know what to make of this though, but
Me
I
either.
think by what was described later is that this growing restless means that there may be an itch for war with them or chaos or something. I don't know,
Mhm.
but I think again, as I said, that like they're starting to really dive into the dragons' personalities.
Yeah.
I think that might be something to keep an eye on. Although there was a transfer of dragons and personnel or kids into a
Yeah.
safety thing. So I don't know how that helps or makes or breaks anything, but I don't know.
Do you think the guy that's something I wrote in my notes. It's like I wonder if he is actually dead. The guy from last season who was Sea Smoke's writer, because she
Yeah.
said he was dead, but I don't know if it's just to hide it because he's supposed to be dead, actually, but then he ran away.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering that too. Um, yeah, I wonder, and I like the dragons' personalities as well. They all have different personalities, and they're all connected to their writers. And so that's definitely going to be interesting to see. And that's probably the dragons are kind of like what initiated Jace dying too,
Yeah.
because they're both very inexperienced writers. So it's like like Jace's dragon, I think, blowing fire at the other one caused him to die, and the other one wasn't listening to Aemon, so that's how he died. But I do like that they have their own personalities, so I think that's good. I wonder what's gonna happen to Sea Smoke. I wonder.
Yeah.
I
And you're
wonder if
talking
he's dead.
about Laenor has
Lena.
Laenor has
Yeah.
been MIA thus far.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that there is something to be made soon there. Uh,
Hmm.
And I'm curious about their relationship with his and Rhaenyra's now at this rate,
Same. Yeah, I think he would be Team Black anyway, because they kind of saved his life. No, they let him go. Made
Yeah,
him free. So I think he would be Team Black.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, now where do we go next here? Oh, ooh. I'll talk about the moving personnel here. So now we look
Oh yeah,
at
the dragons. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and the kids here. So Rhaenyra has said, listen, I need a favor, and her favor is to Rhaena.
Rhaena, yeah.
Yeah, and this is a lot. She wants her to not only take 2 dragons, but all the kids. Joffrey, and I forget the other 2 names. Baby Aegon, and then Viserys.
Yeah.
So she's all the younger ones. She wants Rhaena to take them and the dragons and go to a place where she deems as safe and just off the grid. I won't say off the grid, but just safe. And it seems like not only that, but she says like being a mother to them that I can't.
Yeah.
What did you think about like this movement here and like is this good? Is this good? Will this come back to bite her? I don't know. I just thought it was a very, very interesting move. And also Rhaena, who doesn't have a dragon,
No.
obviously gets the opportunity to be like the future, but I don't think she's just quite at peace just yet. I mean,
Yeah.
Baylor definitely gives her sort of like think about this. This is the big thing for us, but I don't know. I don't know how this is really sitting with Rhaena, but what did you think about that?
I think that I noticed that she feels like, I feel like a little bit of resentment or maybe like anger, because like when she was talking to Bela and things like that, I think she really wants to be a dragon rider. And I
She
feel like
does.
when you're a dragon rider, especially at this time, like there's a level of like importance to it. And I feel like that she maybe doesn't feel like that she's doing much right now because she's not a dragon rider. And I really feel like that whole thing with Reina, she's trying to show her you're you're helping out. You're just doing it in a different way. Saying, protect the kids, be the mother to take care of them, to keep them safe. And I think that's what she was trying to do with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like it. And I don't know if she ever becomes a writer. I'm not too familiar with the book, so we'll see.
Yeah, me neither.
Mhm.
But I think at this rate
Not this
now,
book, at least.
protect your people because
Yeah,
there's
protect your
already been
kids.
there's been enough kid
Mhm.
blood shredded already. So All
Mhm.
right, so we see Daemon now, and Daemon has arrived in Harrenhal, which looks to be a stealth mission, but he gets there and it is as easy breezy as possible because he gets Simon Strong seems to kneel to bend the knee or kneel to him, whatever, and pledges his loyalty to Rhaenyra.
Mhm.
Um, and with that, though, they have a little small conversation, a little funny joke about the peas and how that's an easy way to
Yeah.
kill a dragon rider. But it also lets us know that Harrenhal is the largest castle of the 7 kingdoms, and
Mhm.
just understanding just how significant it is, and also just a measure of rallying troops. And this
Yeah.
was also a goal by both houses. So the fact that he was able to get there early and quick, the proactiveness, it's good, but it also still doesn't put him in the clear because we also know that Aegon has set folks towards that direction in order to try to
Yeah.
get to him. So in a way, he's a little unprotected with his dragon when others could come, and that's what everybody's sort of moving the pieces together in terms of trying to establish like how's all going
Mhm.
to play out. So
Yeah,
um
the Riverlands is also, I think, it has the most houses too, I believe. I think they have Harrenhal, Tully, Bracken, and I think the Blackwoods are there too. I think they have the most like houses that, you know, will have a lot of armies. So, the
mhm,
more that you can get, the better.
that's the
Mhm.
whole goal.
That's right.
Um, all right. Oh, so also they talked about his whole plans, and I don't know. I felt
Mhm.
like Simon Strong basically talk about, well, now what now? And he's just like, well, we'll march to King's Landing and then we'll take the throne. He's like, oh, the throne is just this chair with like swords and stuff. So they made it seem like it was such a little insignificant thing, but like, I don't know. What did you feel any way about that? How they sort of played it down like it wasn't a big deal?
I don't feel any particular way about it. What interests me about that in regards to the Strongs is that they know about Larys, like just killing all of them from last season. I like they know because like I forgot that he was part of Harrenhal. That's one. Forgot they were just like the whole owner of Harrenhal, the Strong family. But he knows, like, how are we gonna set fire? How is there gonna be a fire here in this damp place? Like, what? There hasn't been a fire here for years. So they kind of disown him because that was like a big part of it too. They were like, well, your Larys Strong is, up there over there in King's Landing. Like, how do you feel? And they're like, we don't claim him. So, he's not us. Like the clubfoot. He's such an interesting character, Larys, but I think we'll get into it later because I'm wondering what his whole deal is.
All right, Kristen Cole, he's getting ready to roll out. Upon him leaving, he looks over at Alicent, and I think the first thing he thought was, I think, jealousy, because at this point now, all the two of them have been doing is arguing publicly, and around everybody. But he sees Alicent out talking to somebody, and I thought it was the eyes of jealousy, only to find out that it was her brother, Gawain Hightower. And this
he's a jealous man in general.
I see why people don't like Kristen Cole now. I be seeing a lot online. I'm like, I don't dislike him in the way I'm seeing y'all put energy into it, but now I get it now. But so he's trying to prove a point about how he can do this now, and how he's like the man and all this, and he's getting ready to ride on horse to. Are they going to where are they going to? I forget where they were going to here.
Were they also going to Harrenhal? They were going
I'm about to say, are they going to Harrenhal right now? Makes sense, right? Okay, cool. Yeah. So they're on their way to Harrenhal, and then all Alicent is basically saying is like, yeah, my brother's going too. And he's just like, I don't think he's like built for this. He's like, nah, I'm good. He's like, well, we already got it now. He's like, well, now you got more. It's just interesting how the two of them are operate with one another. But
and she's also upset with him too. Like, you see that she's like visibly annoyed with him because of the death of Eric. It was Eric, right? That was on their side, or Eric? The other Eric. Yeah. Like, that because of the death of Eric, because like, again, he's kind of doing their own thing. It's like, doing whatever.
Do you also think because she doesn't feel a sense of loyalty from him?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think there's no sense of loyalty there.
Cool. So why do you think she sent her brother with him then? To keep eyes on him?
Yes. And also the brother was also in season 1 too. He was also in the beginning. But to keep eyes on him, especially now there's not like a lot of high towers there.
True.
Because they got rid of Otto. So there's not really a lot of people. And he was also upset because, Otto's not handed the king anymore.
Otto will appear at Dragonstone. I'm putting my chips on that bet right now. It's absolutely or leave Driftmark. Like, he's one or the other. He will be there, and I think by next episode, too much of an important character to just wander off into nothing. I think also too, he will be another measure of communication between the two, which is not. I think about it. That's why they couldn't be on the same page just yet. There needs to be somebody else in Alicent's ear in order to like make them sort of resolve their little issues and play nice with one another. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So Dragonstone now. We go there. Everybody's saying that there's been no word for Daemon, and they are this was just them once again strategizing about what's going to happen. And the idea that the council again is just very pro dragons versus dragons. Let's get to war. And yet it's under the understanding that this will all result in the everybody being burned to ashes. So I think that we just needed to really understand just how much everybody around her is pushing for action.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's a measure of like defiance, although she brought it up. I mean, because everybody is definitely like throwing their hands out about what they want to do. And she, Rhaenyra is throwing out the word treason, which is obviously not a good thing you want to be labeled with in these situations, because most time treason is met by death.
Yeah.
But it is just to show you that everybody but Rhaenyra's and Rhaenyra's, I was getting now
I
you get
know.
me. Rhaenys. Rhaenys. Yes,
Rhaenys,
yes.
yeah.
Is Rhaenys is very quietly, but very much with heat ray vision, let her know, like, make your decision wise. You know how I feel about this. And all these other people are telling you one thing, but I think, it just shows you just how valued she is in that.
Yeah.
In this.
I think like a whole major theme of this season is just like losing control. Like, and I feel like that you see like hints of that like throughout, like people not listening to each other.
Yeah.
Basically, and then things just go chaotic because I feel like that's such like a major thing that's been happening this season. Just people doing their own thing and people are not in control anymore. And we'll see what that happens later with dragons, because it's gonna be dragons. Like if you read the books,
they're piping in the CGI budget right now. It's like, don't y'all worry, we got y'all. We're gonna give y'all $1 million episode soon. Don't worry.
Yeah.
This is a part I definitely wanted to hear your take on, and this is a conversation between Rhaenys and Corlys. Where do you see this going? Besides that, just being a measure of love for one another, but and also she's saying like, hey, Rhaenyra is going to need you one way or another, and I'm just curious about what is your thoughts about that whole dynamic?
I like them together. I think they're kind of like the healthiest relationship in the Seven Kingdoms. You're talking about Rhaenys and Corlys, right? That's the ones you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, they're like the healthiest quote unquote relationship in in this world. I like it. I do like that she wants to make Rhaena heir to Driftmark. I like that a lot, considering the fact that, Rhaena, again, is not a dragon rider or anything like that. And I like it because, like, Rhaenys was passed up for heir. Because I know Corlys was talking about the younger son, I forgot his name already, the younger boy of Rhaenyra's being the heir of Driftmark. But she's like, why don't you just make Rhaena the heir? And I like that because, she was passed up for heir. And I like that she's advocating to have a woman as an heir to a throne. I like that a lot. I thought their conversation was really good, and again, the healthiest relationship out of all of them.
You're talking about Joffrey too.
Joffrey, yes, Joffrey. Oh yeah, Joffrey. Yes, okay, yeah, I like them a lot. And I also think that she's also worried for him too, because like there was like a sense of worry with her about him being called off to war and stuff like that. From what I saw, I think there was a point, so there's a little sense of worry, but I like them together.
You had me stuck at like they're the healthiest couple.
They seem like it. Like I saw some like I don't think they're related in any way. So I don't think they're related. He has bastards, but which we do see. I had to figure out who those were. Those two other guys that we saw last episode. Those are his kids.
They're not his kids.
Yeah, they are.
You're talking about the brothers, right?
Yeah, they're his kids, I believe.
I thought they were just two folks that were brothers that was just looking to prove their worth to him. I don't think they were. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm gonna get back to that next episode. I'll let you guys know. I think those are his kids. I'm not particularly sure they're his bastard kids, but I'll come back. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Or we'll see if it plays out next episode.
Yep. All right. Now we get the moment where they're getting the package together, which includes all the kids, 2 dragons, 2 eggs, and it looks like that they're sending them to Lady Jane, and Rhaenyra is also wants to ensure that she's reminded of her pledge.
Yeah.
But this is a moment where we see now just um Rhaenyra and just how important her little journey and voyage is going to be, because this is a lot of precious cargo, should we say. Again, I mean, we talked about it earlier, but I don't know, do we make anything of this as of right now, or like what is your thoughts about it?
I can't make anything of it as of right now. I think it's a little bit too early to tell to see what's going on. I'm not too familiar with the books. I do think that those three dragon eggs definitely reminded me of the ones from Game of Thrones when I saw them. That one is interesting. It's too early to tell right now. I have to see more.
I think I don't know, but I will say this. I think that, considering that just how much Aemma meant to Viserys, and just and obviously tragic ending very early in last season. I think there should be a sense of peace here.
Mhm.
Just because of just when times were good, this has to be absolutely, as she's mentioned, your safest place, just because that um that house, or just should we say, like the house Aaron, I think it's just a safety matter, because they're not in contention with everything. And I
Yeah.
think, considering that, like, her father and their and then Aemma, I think it's just enough to think that, like, this may not pay any dividends for anything until maybe next season, which we know we got
Mhm.
another season. But I think this does stash some of these characters, dragons, and implications into a later time. So
Yeah, like they're prepping it. I could see that. Like they're prepping other people to have dragons and stuff like that
yeah.
in the following season. And it also kind of like setting things up maybe later in the timelines too.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
listen. We know Rain is gonna be on a dragon out of nowhere one moment. So
Yeah.
you gotta even worry about it. All right,
Mhm.
so what do we got now? So we got Allison and Helena. We talked about that earlier, and they were talking about losing babies and just forgiving
Mhm.
her. Aegon is in his chambers, talking about wearing the special armor. Aegon is living up to his prophecy here, because of how he was named, and he figured that this was means for him having to wear the same armor as what did they call him? Aegon
The Conqueror.
the Conqueror. Thank you.
I
I was
think so, yeah.
about to say the Great. Yes, Aegon the Conqueror. Absolutely. So there's that. But then this is what I think where you wanted to talk about with the rumors, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you think about
I don't
Aegon? Once
know.
again, man, he just I don't feel sorry for this guy at all, but man, there's always
No.
something coming his way. But I mean, it's just what it is. It's on the streets. Nobody respects him, and he just
Yeah.
doesn't. He just ain't getting that. But yeah, what did you think when Lord Lares was able to provide some whispering from the street?
Yeah, it's like with like obviously you could see like how the words of the people affect him. Like there was like that moment where he was just like he had so much concern in his faith. And yeah, because like people don't respect him. And I also just like Laris in this because it's like I still don't know what his end game is. I don't know what his goal is. Like, is he
I think
doing this because of chaos? Like,
everybody wants to have their prove their worth.
yeah, maybe. Maybe.
So
Yeah. I just don't know like what his end game is with this. And I just like it overall. This like the acting and stuff like that. Like, you can clearly see that people having people like him or love him affects him a lot.
yeah.
And then that will like add up to like the later parts of that scene where like, he's like the all of his quote unquote friends, are now the knights and stuff like that. And they're talking about like goofing off and having sex
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And he's like, aren't you guys like sworn to chastity now? Like and they're just like laughing at him and he's like, no, I'm serious. Like, and then like he wants to be taken seriously, but wants to be loved at the same time. Because then
Yeah.
later on, you see him partying with them, and stuff like that. So he's definitely at a crossroads. Very interesting
Yeah.
thing to see.
Yeah, yep. And like he went for one month, was like, all right, I think I'm about to go on the Dragons. And he's just like,
Yeah,
maybe I won't. And
maybe
they're just like,
not.
and they're like, good.
Yeah, yeah, they're yes men. Like, yeah, good
Yeah.
idea, sir. Like,
Mm-hmm. I didn't take any of that serious, but
no.
All right, we're getting down to the last little parts of this episode. They get to the bar, and we see somebody at the bar. Now, has this character ever appeared? Because I could not, I wasn't sure, but we got this guy now.
Oh
yeah, saying he is the son of Balin the Brave, which makes him the bastard brother of Daemon. And he makes a good point by saying that, like, I may not look like them, but either does Jace. And he also declares that Rhaenyra is the rightful heir to the throne. And although they said, I mean, he pledges his loyalty to Rhaenyra, but he also said that Jace is the rightful heir to the throne.
Yeah.
This guy says, I don't know if he's just talking off the drink or is there anything to be made of it. But as soon as that happens, Aegon walks in, free drinks for everybody. He goes to the brothel. We talked about the whole Aemon thing, and Aemon's still laying with his first, his safe space, but also he just embarrasses his brother, Aemon, to the point that he even was like, y'all can have her, y'all want, she's a whore, whatever it may be. That hurt my man feelings. He's definitely hurt. She definitely was shocked, like, wait, what? But yeah, I think we talked about that. Is there anything to make with this bastard brother of Daemon and how that may play a part? I mean, I don't know. Is he I don't know. What do we make of him? Could he be, I'm thinking, like, could he be related to that character Rhea Royce?
Which one's that one?
Who was like the wife to Daemon at one point.
Oh,
in the very beginning, the one that, like, I was like, oh, I like her, and she went out there and laid it down on the field. Yeah. Could he be related of sorts? I don't know.
Maybe he was in the last episode too. He was the last episode where the kids were sick.
Okay.
In the bed, and he was the one that asked Aegon for money, I believe. Because he was like, oh, we make the scorpions.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're right.
He's like, we make the scorpions, and then he was in the second season. And I could totally believe that he's related to them. Every time I see like a blonde hair-ish person, like, I automatically assume that it's somebody's one of their kids. Because, like, I also saw, because, like, you also see that in season 1 too, because, like, Aegon has a lot of bastard children.
Sure.
And they're all over King's Landing. Like, you see them in season 1 because they're in the fighting pits. I think I saw another blonde in the brothel also in the last episode too. The one that kind of looked like Helena. She was in, like, in the beginning. I was like, is that her? But no, it's another blonde. So every time I see a blonde, I'm always assuming it's one of their
antennas
kids.
Up. Yeah.
And there could be more. I think he might be related. It could. I did see something from the books, so possibly, but don't quote me on that. But if you guys know in the comments, you can share
it. Right on. So we see Rhaenyra now looking at the castle pieces. She's sad in tears, and this is just her strategizing. But yeah, I think because she just had all her kids and the rightful thing in protection of it. But obviously, she's a mother. She's gonna feel some type of way about that.
Yeah. Also, it's like, sorry to add to that. Like, also, it's like, since, like, she did send up her kids to be saved, this could be the last time we see her. For all she knows, this could be the last time she sees her kids.
That's a good point.
Either they die or she dies. So, that could be another reason why she's feeling that way.
Yeah. All right. Rhaenyra's, so Cole and Gwaine now are in the middle of the field, and they're just strategizing, only to know that there's something lurking up in the sky, and it happens to be a dragon. And it's Baela coming down. And they, as we saw in the trailer, that this was a moment that we did see Crimson Cole, and we didn't, and Gwaine, and we didn't know who was exactly after and what they was running from, but it happens to be Baela, and that runs them into the woods. So it's a very close call, but she's fearless. And also, beyond her being fearless, she's a little excited for this. She looks like
is.
Like, what's
she's
good?
Definitely Daemon's kid.
That's for sure. That is for sure.
I like that. That was fun.
But I think what is interesting is Gwaine looks scared as hell.
Yeah.
That I was not expecting. I thought he was a soldier. I thought, like, he might have been built for this. that measure of fear told me something different. He looked in panic.
Yep.
And I mean, every time anybody see a dragon and y'all dragon, they're scared. But I mean, like Kristen didn't look that scared, you know.
Yeah, but
So
he's also around. I feel like dragons maybe more now. I don't know.
yeah, no kidding.
How
I think
many
that,
dragons are in, Old Town or wherever the high towers are from?
yep, yep,
So
that is going to be telling.
yeah. I also feel like if people are scared, they're more easier to turn. If they're scared. So
That's
you
true.
never know,
That's true. So they get the reports back on Kristen Cole because Baela does what she does, and everybody's agreeing it's time for action. They want to attack Cole, and Rhaenyra said, "I heard your arguments. I would consider them." And look at Rhaenys, and I think it's her just really considering her side of how she needs to go about this, and obviously that's working through Alicent.
Yeah.
So, oh man, what a scene this was! Daemon in his chambers. He has his sword on the door because he just doesn't believe that everybody would have just surrendered in the way they did. So he's a little bit paranoid, and the door gets rattled very hard, and he decides to go out and look for it. And he goes out, and he is having a vision that I was not expecting here.
Yeah.
This is not only a vision, but yet a flashback, and we see young Rhaenyra, and not only just that, because I think there's a couple of things to really make with this here. First, we see her as she's showing back the head of a child, but also getting a warning that like you will die here. It's also cool to see Millie back on the screen. But what did you make of Daemon and these visions that he's having? And what does that mean about his psyche at the current time?
I'm thinking he's feeling bad because like it was her, and I forgot what she said. Did you write down what she said? She said something. Oh gosh, I forgot what she said.
About how he's always late to you talking about the first or the second time? Second time said you will die here, and at first it says like you're always late to the. I don't think she said late to the punch, but something of that sort. Like you're just always late to whatever it is.
Something like that, because also the kid that the head that she was sewing on was also the one that died. Jaehaerys,
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that he's feeling a little bit guilty, seeing like what he's doing and how it affects. Maybe it's something going on in his psyche. Also, I did notice that when it kind of like when that vision kind of ends, you see, I think a rare wood, which is like the trees from Game of Thrones, where they kind of like give you these visions. And I'm wondering if that's there, if that's what's happening. I don't know who the lady was that was like, you will die here. I have no idea who she is. Not at all. Like, if y'all have any theories, please put it down because I have no idea. Maybe she's like one of those red witches. What was her name from the last one? In Game of Thrones, the lady in red. I forgot what her name was.
It's going as soon as we start going, it's gonna come back. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
maybe it's her, but I'm very interested to see what this plays out. But ultimately, I do feel like it's because he's feeling guilty. But I feel like that there's just so much mystery of what this vision was about and like who was making that vision. Because again, we don't know who this woman was. That was kind of like in the scene where he first comes into Harrenhal, and then you see her later in the vision, and she's like, "You will die here." So I'm wondering, any theories? I need to know.
Last two important scenes we got is Mysaria and Rhaenyra is talking about a place that she can secretly meet with Alicent outside of the castle walls that she goes. I mean, this is just showing you and us her keep and how she can move around under the radar. She says like a place where a queen could go without being detected. So they didn't waste no time. We see Rhaenyra's in King's Landing, and the moment she rolls up on Alicent, Danes get tense very quick. She has the knife, and I was like, "Oh, whoa, what's that about?" But she was thinking way better than I was because the knife is obviously there in case Alicent wasn't willing to talk or she might try to yell. And she says, "Well, if you call your guards, they'll kill me, obviously, but not before I kill you.
Yep.
But then they have a talk. I think there is a lot to really make of this, but I think some of the things that stuck out to me about Rhaenyra's letting her know that like her father, King Viserys, he loved me, he loved you. And then we get to what's really important is Rhaenyra asking about her father's last words. Did he speak my name at the end? And she says no, he spoke Aegon's name, which there's truth to this, but there's also some measure of misunderstanding that she wouldn't know, only us the viewers at this rate. And maybe there is, I don't know who can actually decipher the truth here. There's always three sides to a story, but the truth of the matter is when she brought up about him speaking about Aegon's name, about the prince who was presumed to unite the realms, and you know, she questioned like, did my father use those words? Did he use the song of ice and fire? And you know, this really broke her because she always felt it was her, which is true because it was her. But Alicent says it's too late, and that's just about it. Is this like, you know, they're at this rate, they're just not going to be on the same page as yet. Well, that's just some of my takes from it. But what did you take from this very important scene at the end of this episode?
That's all really good acting. I was like totally like really paying attention to both of them. It was a really good scene to have. And I see it a little bit on like nobody knows like fully what his last words mean. Alicent obviously doesn't know because the story of, you know, Song of Ice and Fire, that's only passed down through Targaryens, like in the next ruler. That's what the dagger is, and stuff like that. And that's the, you know, the daggers that you see in the actual series of Game of Thrones. And Alicent doesn't know what it means because she's not Targaryen. She's not a ruler. He didn't explain it to her. And obviously, like, I truly think that she does believe that he was talking about her son because she doesn't know.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the problem with this whole thing. Stop naming your kids Aegon. Like, stop naming them after each other. It gets so messy and confusing. That's the real reason why this is happening. Okay. Yeah. Like, because, you know, you name your kids all the same. But I feel like she truly believes that he's talking about Aegon because she doesn't know any better. You know, she's not lying. And for Rhaenyra, I feel like that she realized that too, because she's like, is that because he told her last season, I believe, of the Song of Ice and Fire.
That's the thing. That's that when you really go back and look at that last scene or that last episode, you understand that he always thought throughout his hallucinations at this rate that he was talking to Rhaenyra. So Alicent coming in was definitely not what he thought. It's not what he thought it was, and it definitely is not what she thought it is. He thought he was finishing up the conversation with Rhaenyra because that's when you mentioned when he initially started talking about it, and bringing it up that secondary conversation was only solidifying that he was choosing her to be the heir to the throne. Like it's not even up to debate. The only other aspect I would add to this is that I think that with his love for Aemma, that it never, ever, ever put Alicent in consideration to the plan here. She was there as means of producing a baby,
children,
and that's it. I won't say that he did not love her, but he damn sure wasn't in love with her at all. No. Every single moment. I mean, he even called Alicent Aemma at one time. I think that's just enough to tell you, like, she was never ever like anybody in his measure. She was never anybody in his measure of consideration over her son Aegon. Aegon, as Aegon reminded everybody today, that he was named after Aegon. I think if you really look at it, it means the Viserys wanting to ensure that Rhaenyra was going to be there to the throne. If you look at it, you can tell that he was talking about Aegon the Conqueror and talking about that. And also, as you said, like because it's a story within the Targaryens, that he was only but most definitely ensuring that Rhaenyra was going to be the heir. So I just think that she just came into the last moment, even with him with his last moment saying my love. I think he was definitely getting ready to say something about Aemma.
Yeah.
Like not Allison just happened to be there at the right place at the right time. And so she swayed this in a way that it's not entirely true. And maybe just maybe Rhaenyra is going to be able to figure this out. Maybe Rhaenys is going to be able to really decipher everything that's going on and understand that Allison may just be trying to be manipulative with this. But I know.
We'll see. We'll definitely see. But definitely a good scene. I like seeing them together, and she's still not, Allison. Like, it's like they're trying to make it work, but I feel like they're still being a little bit petty towards each other. Like, they don't like Allison's like, I'm not gonna surrender. Like, I'm not gonna, it's weird. Definitely complicated relationship between the two of them. Complicated friendship.
All right, we'll put a pin in it there. That'll do it for our recap of House of the Dragon episode 3. Definitely get in the comments, let us know your thoughts about tonight's episode, other things that we may not have picked up on. So definitely get down there with your theories and also fill in the gaps for anything that we might have missed or whatever you want to call it. But nonetheless, we'll see y'all back next week for episode 4. We appreciate you all tuning in tonight. It's been a pleasure. It's been a ride, whatever you want to call it.
It's good. I love it. Love talking about it.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all.